They say some stories are better left unfinished because once you hear the end, you can't unknow it. Tonight is one of those nights. What you're about to hear starts tame, almost like a rumor you'd laugh off with friends, but by the time we reach number 1 in this series, you'll understand why people swear these legends don't stay on the page. They follow, they listen, and they wait. If you think you're ready, start by remembering this. Number 1 isn't just scary, it changes the way people sleep forever. But before we get there, we need to begin lower on the list with a legend that asks one simple question and punishes you no matter how you answer. Number 5 is known as the slit-mouthed woman, Kuchisake Onna, and the scariest part isn't how she looks, it's how she sounds. They say she appears on empty streets, usually at night, when the air feels wrong and even your footsteps sound too loud. She wears a long coat, sometimes a mask, sometimes a scarf pulled high enough to hide her face. The streets are always quiet when she shows up. No cars, no voices, just the soft scrape of her shoes against the pavement, always behind you, never in front. People who claim to survive encounters say they heard her before they saw her. A faint giggle, the whisper of fabric moving, a sound like someone smiling too wide. Imagine walking home alone, keys clenched between your fingers, replaying your day in your head. You hear footsteps matching your pace. When you stop, they stop. When you turn around, she's standing there, just close enough that you can smell her perfume, sweet and metallic. She tilts her head and asks in a voice that sounds almost polite, "Am I pretty?" Your answer doesn't matter. If you say no, the blade comes out fast. No warning, no second chance. People say you don't even feel the pain at first, just warmth and pressure, and then the street gets very quiet. If you say yes, she smiles and pulls down the mask. Her mouth is split from ear to ear, carved into a permanent grin that shouldn't exist on a human face. Blood glistens along the edges like it's still fresh. Then she asks again, "How about now?" This is where the legend tightens its grip. People claim that even if you scream, no sound comes out, your throat locks up, your ears ring. The city around you feels fake, like a backdrop. And no matter what answer you give the second time, the blade flashes. Survivors, if they exist, say the sound stays with you. The wet slice, the soft laugh afterward, a laugh that echoes in your head long after you wake up. In Japan, there are stories of schools being shut down because children were too afraid to walk home alone. Police patrols increased, parents formed groups, and still, people vanished. Some swear that saying something clever can confuse her, that throwing candy or answering with a question might buy you time. But every version ends the same way. You never really escape, because even if she lets you go, you'll start hearing footsteps behind you on empty streets. You'll feel a smile stretching across your own face when you don't want it to. And sometimes, when you look in the mirror late at night, you'll swear your mouth looks a little wider than it used to. That's the thing about urban legends. They don't need to kill you to win. They just need to live in your head. And if that thought makes your skin crawl, you might want to stop right here. Because what's coming next doesn't even ask questions, it just watches. Number 4 comes from much closer to home, depending on where you're listening from. The Fresno nightcrawlers don't chase, they don't speak, they don't threaten. They simply appear, usually on grainy security footage or shaky late-night videos, moving in ways that make your brain reject what it's seeing. Long white legs, no arms, no head, just fabric-like shapes gliding across roads, fields, and backyards like they don't belong to this world. People first noticed them in California, near Fresno, late at night when motion sensors would trigger for no reason. Homeowners would rewind footage and see them drifting past, silent, unnatural, their movement too smooth, too deliberate. No footprints, no sound. Just a sense that something passed through and didn't care who saw it. Witnesses describe a strange quiet when they appear, like the world dips underwater. Crickets stop chirping, dogs freeze or hide. One man said he heard a faint rustling, like cloth brushing against cloth, even though there was no wind. Another said his security camera microphone picked up a low, rhythmic thump, like footsteps that never touched the ground. The creepiest part isn't what they look like. It's how calm they are. They don't rush. They don't react. They move like they've got all the time in the world, like they know you're the one who should be afraid. Some researchers tried to debunk them, calling them hoaxes or costumes, but but no one ever explained the lack of shadows, the impossible leg movement, or why every video triggers the same reaction in viewers. A deep, instinctive unease, like your brain is recognizing a predator your eyes can't fully understand. People who live near the sightings say that after the footage goes viral, strange things start happening. Doors found open in the morning, motion alerts with no video, the feeling of being watched from outside bedroom windows, even on second floors. And always that silence. That heavy, pressed-down quiet, like something is standing just out of sight, waiting for you to notice it moved closer. If you think number 5 was personal, and number 4 feels invasive, understand this. Each story on this list gets closer. Closer to you. Closer to the places you think are safe. And the next one doesn't stay outside, because coming up next is a legend born on a bridge, fueled by whispers and blamed for disappearances that were never solved. The Goat Man of Maryland doesn't glide, he hunts. And if you're already uneasy, you're not ready for what comes after that. If you're still listening, it means you didn't shut this off after realizing how close these stories feel. That's usually when people stop, right after they get that itch between the shoulder blades, the one that tells you something's standing behind you, even when you're alone. What we talked about before stayed on streets and in fields, places you could avoid if you really tried. But from here on out, avoidance stops working. Because the next legend lives where curiosity pulls people in. And once you cross that line, the sounds never stop following you. Number 3 takes us to Maryland, to a stretch of road near an old railroad bridge locals warn you about in half jokes and lowered voices. They call him the Goat Man, and depending on who you ask, he's either an urban myth, a government experiment gone wrong, or something much older that learned how to wear a shape we recognize. The stories always start the same way. Someone drives out to the bridge late at night. The engine hums steady, tires crunching gravel. The radio cuts to static for no reason. And the air gets colder the closer you get, even in summer. They say the Goat Man announces himself with sound before sight, a low bleating mixed with a wet, dragging breath. Not loud, not aggressive, just enough to make you roll down the window and listen harder. That's the mistake. People park near the bridge and step out, laughing it off, daring each other to knock on the metal beams or flash their headlights under the arch. The bridge creaks when the wind passes through it, metal whining like it's under stress. Every sound echoes, stretching longer than it should. Witnesses claim they hear footsteps on the bridge when no one's walking. Heavy steps, 4 of them, then 2. Like something shifting how it moves. Shadows slide along the concrete supports, tall and twisted, horns brushing the underside of the bridge with a scraping sound that vibrates through your teeth. Some say they smelled it first, a mix of wet fur, rust, and something rotten that doesn't belong in open air. The Goat Man doesn't rush. That's the detail that shows up again and again. He stalks. You'll hear branches snapping one by one, slow, deliberate, circling. Your phone loses signal. Your car refuses to start. And over it all, that breathing, deep and labored, like lungs working too hard for the body they're stuck in. People who make it back to their cars swear they heard a voice, low and mocking, repeating their names even though they never said them out loud. There are reports, never officially confirmed, of scratches found on car doors the next morning, deep grooves cut through paint and metal. Campers talk about waking up to hoof prints around their tents that suddenly turn into boot prints halfway through. One group of teenagers claim they saw it stand upright at the edge of the headlights, its silhouette wrong in every way, head tilted like it was curious, not angry. They said the last thing they heard before speeding away was laughter, rough and broken, echoing off the bridge long after it should have faded. And here's the part that doesn't get told often. Locals say the Goat Man doesn't always chase. Sometimes he just watches. People report the feeling weeks later, being followed on empty sidewalks, hearing hooves on pavement that turn into footsteps behind them, finding mud on their floors with no explanation. It's like, once he notices you, you never fully leave his territory. If that legend made your chest tighten, understand this. You're still in the middle of the list. The next one strips away roads, bridges, and excuses. It doesn't need a specific place. It just needs permission. And most people give it without realizing it. Because number 2 isn't something you stumble into by accident. It's something that listens, learns, and waits for the exact moment you feel safe enough to let your guard down. If you made it this far, you've probably noticed something unsettling. Every legend so far had limits. A street, a bridge, a place you could point to on a map and say, "I'll never go there." Number 2 takes that comfort away, because this one doesn't belong to a single road or town. It follows people home. It learns voices. And by the time you realize what you're listening to, it already sounds like someone you trust. They call them skinwalkers. The name itself feels wrong in your mouth, like saying it too loudly might draw attention. I first heard about them through recordings, phone audio passed around in private groups, always late at night, always prefaced with warnings people pretended were jokes. Most of the stories come from the American Southwest, wide open land where sound travels far and the dark feels endless. But the thing about skinwalkers is they don't respect borders. The encounters almost always begin with sound. That's how they get you. Someone hears footsteps outside their house after midnight, slow pacing, back and forth. Then a knock, soft at first, careful. The kind of knock that makes you think maybe a neighbor needs help. You stand there listening, heart beating in your ears, trying to decide. Then you hear your name, perfectly pronounced, familiar. People swear it's the voice of a family member, a friend, a partner, someone who should not be outside at that hour. The voice sounds close, right on the other side of the door, but something about it feels stretched, like it's being pulled thin. The pauses between words are wrong, too long, like whatever's speaking has to remember how sentences work. Those who open the door rarely talk about what they see. The ones who don't open it, they hear scratching, nails dragging across wood, fingers testing windows, breathing that doesn't sync with the words being spoken. One man said the voice outside his trailer kept repeating, "Let me in." But every time it spoke, it sounded like a different person trying to imitate the same voice. Skinwalkers are said to wear shapes, animals first. Coyotes standing too still. Deer watching from the edge of headlights without blinking. Then something worse. Animals moving wrong. Legs bending at odd angles. Jaws opening too wide. People describe hearing footsteps on roofs, heavy thumps that circle slowly, like something mapping the structure of the house. Always accompanied by that breathing, rough and eager, leaking through walls like smoke. There are stories of skinwalkers mimicking cries for help. A baby crying in the distance where no child should be. A woman screaming your name from the tree line. Survivors say the sound pulls at you physically, like your body wants to move before your brain can stop it, and if you answer back, that's when things escalate. People who live in areas tied to these stories follow strict rules. Don't whistle at night, don't answer voices you can't see, don't look too long at animals standing upright, and never invite anything inside, even as a joke. Because skinwalkers are said to need permission. Once they have it, they don't need to hide anymore. Those who survive claim the aftermath is worse. You'll hear familiar voices when you're alone. Your phone will ring with missed calls you don't remember making. Pets will stare at corners of rooms and refuse to enter certain spaces. And sometimes, when you speak, your own voice won't sound right to you, like it's echoing from somewhere else. If that thought makes you uneasy, brace yourself. Because everything so far has been a build-up. Number 1 doesn't knock. It doesn't mimic. It doesn't wait for permission. It arrives already dead and still moving. And once you understand how number 1 works, you'll realize why people in certain parts of the world sleep with the lights on, the windows sealed, and their ears straining for the sound of fabric dragging across the floor. By the time you reach number 1, most people are already tense, already checking shadows in their rooms, already listening a little too closely to the sounds their house makes at night. That's not an accident. Everything before this was meant to prepare you for a legend that doesn't stalk from a distance or pretend to be something familiar. This one is born from death itself. Number 1 comes from Indonesia, and once you hear how it moves, you'll understand why people swear the dead should never be disturbed. This is the legend of the Pokong. In Indonesian tradition, when someone dies, their body is wrapped tightly in a white burial shroud, tied at the head, neck, and feet. The knots are important. They're meant to keep the soul at rest. But the legend says that if those ties aren't loosened properly after burial, the spirit becomes trapped. Not asleep, not gone, trapped. And when it comes back, it doesn't walk, it hops. People say the first sign of a Pokong isn't sight, it's sound. A soft thudding noise, rhythmic and slow, like a heavy sack hitting the ground over and over. Thump, pause, thump, pause. It's easy to mistake it for construction or something falling nearby until you realize it's getting closer. The sound is wrong for footsteps. Too hollow, too heavy. Witnesses describe seeing a white shape at the edge of their vision, upright and stiff, rocking slightly as it moves. The fabric of the shroud drags across dirt, tile, concrete, making a faint scraping noise that crawls into your ears. There's no face at first glance, just folds of cloth where a face should be. But if you look too long, you'll see it. Dark eye sockets pressing against the fabric. A mouth stretched open beneath the wrap, frozen in a silent scream. Pocong sightings often happen near graveyards, abandoned buildings, or quiet village roads late at night. The air gets cold. Dogs start whining instead of barking. People report feeling pressure in their chests, like the atmosphere itself is pushing down on them. One man claimed he heard whispering in a language he didn't recognize, coming from behind him, even though the street was empty. When he turned around, the Pocong was there, close enough that he could smell damp earth and decay seeping through the cloth. The most disturbing stories come from inside homes. People wake up to that sound inside their house.
Bawas kalian ini.
Some believe that if you untie the knots, the spirit will finally rest. Others say that's a lie the Pocong spreads, a trick to get close enough to finish what death started. In some villages, people avoid walking alone at night entirely. Windows stay shut, lights stay on, and when someone hears that sound outside, no one checks. Because the final warning tied to the Pocong is simple. If you hear it hop toward you, don't run, don't scream, don't look back. The moment you turn around, it knows you're aware of it. And once it knows that, it won't stop following. That's why people say this list ends here. Not because there aren't scarier legends, but because some stories are believed to listen. And if you've been hearing things while this played, if the silence around you feels heavier than before, maybe it's not the audio. Maybe something hopped a little closer while you were listening.